There is absolutely nothing more powerful, and I would argue more important right now, than remembering who we are. But how do we do it? That is what we are going to be diving into today. Welcome back to Divine Alignment, sweet, beautiful souls. I am so grateful you are here to explore and dive into this very important topic. I believe that the way that our world is right now, the way that the energy is, most importantly, is amplifying. And this is calling up all of us in ways I believe that we didn't expect or perceive would be happening. And it's clear that we must all come into a level of remembrance. And those who choose to not remember, this is their journey, this is their path. Perhaps in this lifetime, they have chosen to not remember. But if you're listening to this, you have chosen in this lifetime to remember and act as a catalyst for others' remembrance. When we come into remembrance of who we are, this is where everything aligns. This is where everything aligns. This is where we remember our power, our truth, our strength, our sovereignty. And as a byproduct of that, health, wealth, relationships, everything aligns. This doesn't mean everything is perfect all the time. This does not mean that at all. However, we see the cosmic higher perspective of it all, and this allows us to gain more power and strength from within. Now, I say power and strength from within because when I'm saying this, this is a very different power than perhaps many have associated in external forces and sources. So when I'm referring to power, I'm referring to your internal magnitude, internal magnetism, internal effervescent nature that creates your life. This is the power I'm referring to, not external government, none of that. So just remember that as we move through this journey together. I believe that awakening, ascension, growth is remembering. And one of the greatest tools I believe in my awakening and remembering has been gene keys. And I'll never forget this quote from Richard Rudd, the founder. He said, awakening is a series of softenings. And that's really, truly what it is. It's a peeling back everything that we are not. It's a letting go of the stories. It's a letting go of the traumas. It's a letting go of these identities. And it's a letting go of these perceptions in which we have created our reality to be that are simply rooted in an old story, an old aspect of self, and they served a time. They served a time, but they're not serving where you're going. Okay. And I would like to just begin by inviting you to come with me from just, my goodness, it was just about a week ago. I was at this beautiful spot in nature, and it was just the most beautiful day. It was the most beautiful day. And as the seasons are turning here in the Northern Hemisphere, I absolutely take full advantage of the last nice days. It might have been the last, might have been the last nice day. And it was just this beautiful day. There was not a cloud in the sky, blue, crystal blue skies. And I went to an island along the river, and the sun was just beating down on my body, on my skin. I could feel the beautiful codes from the sunshine just helping me remember who I am. And this is a huge part of remembering who we are, I believe, is coming back to our source, coming back to nature. And so as I'm sitting here in silence, in gratitude and appreciation, just feeling the sun just beat down on me. I feel the invitation to go into the water, to go into the river, to just wade into the river. So I put down my belongings, my things, my phone, and I just go and walk ever so gently and powerfully into the water, as it wasn't just me desiring to, it was something desiring me. And so every step on this sand felt like it was pulling me into her remembrance. And as I come into the water and I feel the chill, as like the goosebumps run up my feet and my legs and into my hips and my abdomen, and I'm just softening. I'm softening. And I just hear the invitation, come deeper, come deeper, come deeper. So I walk in deeper and deeper, continue to go in deeper. And I realize I'm going to have to keep going pretty far out. And so I get to a point where I just kneel and I bend my knees, and I come as the water just continues to creep up my whole body. And then I just hear, come fully in, come fully in. And so this is not something I typically do. I typically don't love to go dunk my head all the way in. If you're a girl with hair, you probably understand this. You probably understand this. Like, I didn't want all of, usually I don't want all of whatever if I have plans later or whatever, but this felt so important. And so I just listened. And I put my head under the water. And the first thought, the first thing I say out loud as they come up from the water, I'm free. I'm free. And so as we move into this remembrance, this is my desire for you, to remember this internal freedom, for we are all free. And we are all in the process of remembering our true freedom within. And when I have these experiences, one of my greatest learnings, teachings is learning how to incorporate and weave this into my daily life. And this is, herein lies the journey of life, right? Life is a continual forgetting and remembering. And when we can remember that these are two sides of the same coin, you cannot have forgetting without remembering and remembering without forgetting. Okay? There are a few select souls who come into this incarnation fully remembered, and that comes with a lot of challenges. That comes with its own host and set of challenges. Forgetting and coming to remember, it's like this game of life. And when we can look at this game of life in this way, we now begin to see that there are certain things in our world that are keeping us in the state of forgetting. So this is where we're going to begin. I want you to begin to perhaps audit your life and see where you have been pulled into forgetting. Okay? The first, I would argue, would be the news and bad TV. This is constantly going to be creating a state of fear and untruths. We're going to call them untruths in the body, in the field. When you are in these lower states, you are not in remembrance. However, this can be a beautiful catalyst for remembering, to see and witness that it's not truth. But what is truth? Truth is your current remembrance of self. So there are these external forces. That's just one. A few others I would say would be toxins and these things that are unfortunately put in our food. If you live, especially in the US, I believe toxins in the food, in the water, in the air are all designed to make us not. They're not, okay. I'm trying to say this without putting too much fear, but they are designed to keep us out of our power and out of our truth. Because if we're not in our power or we're not in our truth, we are in another person's power and another person's truth. This doesn't mean that our bodies aren't strong and able to have resiliency. This does not mean this at all. You have a very resilient, your soul signed up for toxins and all, and to navigate these. But this is why detox and really nourishing our bodies on a mind, body, soul level is so important. So also then we come into friendships and relationships and who is in our life. Are we with people who are helping us remember? Are we doing work that is helping us remember? Are we living our lives in a state of unconscious hypnosis, or are we consciously tuning ourselves to what we desire? Now, this gets really fascinating and really interesting because remembering is all about actually letting go. It's a series of letting go. As I started with Richard Rudd, it's a series of awakening is a series of softening. So it's really more about letting go of what we are not than learning something that we are. And my goal is to, if you desire to accept it, of course, is to energetically provide this cleansing, this remembering that the water has provided for me in this moment, and allow it to continually wash away the stories, the identities, and the traumas, and the beliefs and the stories that are not aligned with your remembrance. So this gets really interesting when we can think back to where we all came from. We all come from source. We are all an extension of source, God, the universe, divine, whatever you would like to call it. And when we come into this third dimension, which is shifting and evolving into a higher dimension, there are all of these lessons that our souls have chosen. And every lesson that you are experiencing in your life is something that your soul has chosen. And we can get into the concept of free will versus divine will, but really I believe that your higher self is always going to be orchestrating what's best for you. And we always have the opportunity to work with God, source, the universe, to weave and create the timeline that matches what our soul is desiring. Okay, because there's a difference between the ego and the soul, and the ego is very plugged into external reality. It's very plugged into these animalistic drives of needing these like main drivers of our society, of needing, well, first of all, the basic needs of food and water, shelter, and to reproduce. These are like the basic human needs. But when we get above that, then we have status, and this leads to comparison, and all of these things that we're told are like very important. But the more we get entangled into those, the more that we forget who we are. But remember, part of the forgetting is the remembering. So the more that we forget, if you feel like you've forgotten, oh my goodness, my friend, you were on the brink of remembering. So remember that every time that you feel like you're forgetting is that it's a step in your remembrance. I was recently in this and something that a good a fellow intuitive friend that I was talking to, like even as intuitives, we go through these times of like, what intuition, are you there? Like what, like tell me, like I'm needing guidance right now. And it's like, no, like you needed to forget for a little bit. You needed to go through some lessons and some learnings. And so if you are intuitive too, like this is so normal. Being intuitive and being psychic and being like whatever these things, whatever you want to call yourself and whatever someone else calls themselves, doesn't mean you know all the answers all the time. It just doesn't. And if anyone tells you they do, they're lying, okay? Run, because you don't want to work with anyone who says they know all the things all the time. And you should not receive insights or wisdom from someone who says that, because it's simply not true. No one really fully understands this full game. But the more that we can get into our truth, and here's the thing, your truth and your remembering is going to be totally different than another person's. And this is where the journey can really test us. This is when the journey can really test us, because we have to listen to ourselves above everyone else. And this can be people we really care about, people we really love, people we really trust. But trusting ourselves and our own unique path. Every single person's soul blueprint is different. And that's wild to think about. So we have these models of people doing things and how to go about our remembering. And yet there is no, it's a secret. There is no path. There's only your path. There's only your path. So how do we come into remembrance? Mind, body, soul. Mind, body, soul. Aligning these is how we come into remembrance. And I used to think for a long time that it was about starting with one and then starting with the, and then moving to the other and then moving to the other. And I just don't believe that anymore. I believe, once again, everyone's journey is unique and should be catered to them. So if things aren't shifting in your mind, work with your body. If things aren't shifting with your body, work with your mind. And the soul is going to support you in all of these. Your soul is going to support you in all of these if you continue to listen to the guidance you're receiving. So, for instance, I received this very, very clear feedback just this morning. Just this morning. I have been the past few days like in a forgetting. And I was really struggling. I'm not gonna lie. And then I was like, oh, two things occurred. I took a certain supplement that has very powerful herbs in it. And then secondly, I began cleaning, because whenever I need to shake things up, I just start cleaning. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I started feeling so much better. And then this morning I was like, wow, that just really helped me. And then so clearly I received, no, it didn't. That was not your power. It simply removed anything that was in the way of your power. So this is when we do certain protocols and detoxes, which are pretty important for the time that we're living in right now. Okay. It's pretty important. All of these things are just going to remind us who we are. They're not your power. They simply remove the obstacles and blocks that are in the way of your power. So in the physical, we can remove and eliminate toxins, pesticides, filter our water, take really good quality supplements and good quality food and good quality things that optimize our body. I'll put the link for some of my favorites below. And then secondly, we get into the mind and the body, and like this goes, mind and body are they're connected. So when we begin to release traumas, when we begin to release stories, we are remembering, because these are literally clouding our lens of how we see reality. So releasing traumas, releasing stories, releasing ways of thinking in the mind allow you to remember who you are. When you remember who you are in your power, in your truth, in your divine knowing, connected to God, source, the universe, just by releasing these stories. And so when people say that, like, I don't have time to work on myself, I don't have time to do this, I have to take care of others, I have to help others, I need to do work, like all of these things. And it's like, you're not showing up for others in the way that you truly could. You're not showing up for your life in the way that you truly could. You're not showing up in your full power and strength and truth. Like this is the most important thing. And it's not saying do work on yourself 24/7. You're not broken. But there are things that we can do to support ourselves so that we can support the whole. So then we get into spirit. How do we cultivate and come into communion with our spirit? I believe truly the greatest thing and greatest catalyst for this is connecting with Mother Earth, connecting with nature, connecting with the divine through the earth. The earth, we are all made up of the earth, as I stated at the beginning. So how do we connect with the earth? And so this is why I share some of these incredibly powerful experiences that I have with nature, because this has been one of my greatest teachers in my remembering. And it's such this interesting thing that happens, because so often when we come into nature, we can slow down. And it really is this slowing down that allows us to speed up. We must slow down in order to speed up. So often, so many people are running 100 miles an hour at the wrong thing that they're not really desiring, only to find out once they get there that it's not what they're desiring. So how can you slow down, identify where it is you're going, and then powerfully, swiftly, easily move towards that? This is remembering. This is remembering. It's slowing down. It's letting go. It's much less about activating and more so about releasing. Once we have released, there are beautiful activations that may take place. And perhaps there is an activation that could take place that would help you in your releasing. So I'm not going to say don't ever seek out the expansion energy of that, but it's so often about just really letting go. And so many people right now are experiencing these ego deaths and these questioning of who and what they are. Oh my goodness, I'm having so many of my own of, I thought that I was this, I thought I believed this, and now I need to be okay with believing something that maybe contradicts that, maybe that goes against that. And that's part of remembering. Part of remembering is working with our eternal nature and eternal truth. So all of these things, these things in the matrix that have taught you that you came to work and to earn a status and to be a certain way, to show up a certain way, that you have to do all of these things. And this is the life, of this is the human experience of life. Is it though? Is it? Perhaps this is the path for some people, but the greatest part of remembering is awakening your divine soul's blueprint, your divine soul's path. And when we can do this, there's nothing more beautiful, magnetic, and powerful that we could be doing in the world than that. And so that is why I have created the meditation to help you release anything that isn't serving you so that you can fully remember. Now, full disclosure, sessions are going to be the most powerful way to do this because they're specific for you. So the sessions where I work with people, we're in your specific energy helping you do this. But the next best thing you can do is a release meditation that I've channeled to help you release the stories, the blinders, and come back into your truth. And the way that this works on your subtle body. This works on your subtle body, and you're going to find that after you do this meditation, you're going to be led and drawn to certain things, to certain people, to certain places, to certain events, to certain, perhaps just going a different direction home. These little things are where synchronicities happen and where magic unfolds and where you meet that person and where you discover that thing or where you get that new idea. It's going to literally soothe and work with the energies in your body so that this occurs. Because when this occurs, you come into remembrance. And when you're in remembrance, you're in your power. You're in your truth. And there is nothing more magnetic and more powerful in this world. And others need this. This is truly, I believe, what we need the most right now in our world is others in their power. Whenever I forget, I come back to a practice like this to come into my remembrance. Oh my gosh, even better, take this meditation with you out into nature. But we can't be in nature every day, right? Or we can, but if you're like me with the weather getting cooler, it's not always hours every day. And so with that, and that's a beautiful thing. This is part of the changing of the seasons. And this is really such a beautiful practice to do in the changing of the seasons, is to come inward and to soften and allow these softenings to take place. And so if you feel called to go deeper and come into your remembrance, oh my goodness, I so invite you. I'm going to put the link for it below. Definitely give it a listen, fully receiving it. And until next time, my loves, may you remember who you are. Sending you all infinite love and light.